Nithyananda, let's go ahead with the next part of the Bhagavad Gita Decoded by the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Jagadguru Mahasanidanam Nithyananda Paramashivam. We are at part 9. Let's start with the Satguru Vandanam to invoke Swamiji Bhagavan into our space. Let's sit straight with the head, neck, and spine in a straight line, the hands to the Anjali Mudra. And let's chant the Satguru Vandanam. Nithyanandam Paramasukaram Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sarasham Tatvamasyari Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshi Bhutam Bhavatitam Trigunaraitam Satgurum Tam Namami. Om Nithyananda Paramashivam. Yes, let's go ahead with part 9 of the Bhagavad Gita Decoded. Ego needs support. 1.8. Your good self, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, who are ever victorious in battle, and even so Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadatta. 1.9. Many other heroes there are who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All are well equipped with different weapons and well experienced in warfare science. 1.10. The strength of army of ours, protected by Bhishma, is invincible, whereas the strength of their army, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. 1.11. Stationed in your respective divisions on all strategic fronts, all of you must give full protection to Grandfather Bhishma. 1.12. Bhishma, the mighty patriarch of the Kuru dynasty, their glorious grandson, then blew upon his conch loudly, roaring like a lion, and Duryodhana was joyful. Duryodhana was a coward by nature. Cowardice is the smell of inauthenticity. Courage is the fragrance of authenticity. He was inauthentic as his mamakara. What he perceived as himself was much lower than his ahankara, what he projected as himself to others. Understand, when one is in denial, suffering is naturally going to be there. His root pattern is self-denial of deep fear, and insecurity had always made him feel threatened by the fact that his Pandava cousins, especially Arjuna and Bhima, were far more superior, physically stronger and skilled than him. Duryodhana felt secure only when surrounded by cronies. His strength in Veda arose from the feeling of being supported by his clan and the army around him. On the positive side, Duryodhana was an Arjuna Vishada Yoga, extremely friend, who gave his all for the sake of someone he trusted. This quality had attracted strong men like Karna to him, who swore undying loyalty. Even though Karna knew that Arjuna was his own brother, all he could say to his mother Kunti was that she would finally be left with 5 sons, implying that one of her sons, either Arjuna or Karna, would perish in the war. Such was the loyalty that Duryodhana awoke in his friends. Duryodhana now rightly went on to claim that there were a number of people who were great warriors, who would willingly lay down their lives for him. He then began to boost his own morale by saying that the power of Kaurava army led by Bhishma was immense, whereas the Pandava army with Bhima as one of the commanders was limited in power. Duryodhana's reference to Bhima alongside Bhishma was due to the fear pattern that he had of the oath that Bhima had taken to break Duryodhana's tie and drink his blood to avenge the insult to Draupadi. Duryodhana knew that the only factor that could prevent it would be the protection of Bhishma. Duryodhana then addressed the Kaurava army, exhorting them to support their commander-in-chief Bhishma. In response, Bhishma blew his conch like a lion, making Duryodhana joyful. Bhishma was the first Kaurava commander-in-chief, and Duryodhana wanted to make sure that the entire Kaurava army was committed to his leadership. Bhishma, the greatest warrior either side, had known what was leading the Kaurava army. Duryodhana wanted to take no chances that his past hatred towards Bhishma would affect his assembled supporters. Though he knew that Bhishma and even Drona would have gone with the Pandava princes and Krishna, had it not been their strong bonds of duty, he could not afford to antagonize them. The qualities of Dharma. Bhishma is the embodiment of Dharma, righteousness. He is the Pitamaha, the grandfather of Mahabharata, the grandson and patriarch of the Pandavas and Kaurava clan. Bhishma was born to Ganga as Devavatra. He was the only surviving son of 8 sons of Ganga, had given birth to. So Ganga, the sacred most river energy, is the great-grandmother of Mahabharata. When Bhishma's father, King Shantanu, wanted to marry Satyavati, a daughter of a fisherman, Devavrata swore to remain as a brahmachari, never to marry, so that his stepmother, Satyavati's children, could have access to his father's throne. Satyavati was the grandmother of both Pandu and Dhritarashtra. Bhishma was highly respected for his valor and sagacity. It is one of the greatest ironies of Mahabharata that wise men like Bhishma and Drona chose to be on Duryodhana's side, knowing fully well whatever path Duryodhana was following was not only morally incorrect, but also against Dharma, the cosmic law. In the highest spiritual sense, there is no right or wrong morally. Everything is neutral. Bhishma and Drona were not ordinary people. They were highly matured souls, adept in living the scriptural truth. Moreover, they were fully aware that Krishna is a divine incarnation, and the very fact that Krishna sided with the Pandavas was clear indication to them as to how the war would unfold. As great warriors themselves, they had no fears about their own death. And more importantly, they had no guilt, no incompletions about what they had embarked upon. Great men like Bhishma, Drona, and Kripacharya trusted their inner space. Duryodhana was their prince, and they were committed to him, not attached to the result of the war. They were certain that Duryodhana would perish, and they would too, along with him. In fact, at one point in the war, when Krishna was greatly angered at the rout that Bhishma was causing in the Pandava army, Krishna got down from Arjuna's chariot that he was driving and advanced menacingly towards Bhishma. Bhishma instantly laid down his arms, joined his palms in prayer to the advancing Krishna, who was wielding a chariot wheel as his Sudarshana chakra, the divine discus weapon on his finger, and greeted him. Lord, it will be the greatest blessings for me to die at your hands. To these great warriors, dying on the battlefield was the duty of a kshatriya, a warrior. They weren't concerned with the righteousness of Duryodhana's motives. Their integrity transcended the moral rights and wrongs established by society and religion. What is morality? In a given society, in a given era, morality is generally the accepted standards of what is desirable and undesirable, what is considered right or wrong, conduct and good or bad, behavior of a person, a group, or an entity. Morality is about good and bad, right and wrong. It changes from time to time, era to era. When time changes, all this changes. Please understand, integrity is not morality or ethics of the society. Integrity is a spiritual value. Integrity is you fulfilling the word and thought you give to yourself and others and experiencing a state of purnatva, completion with yourself and others. Integrity is not ethics. Ethics is different. Integrity is different. Morality and ethics vary from time to time. Integrity is absolute. These warriors disproved of Duryodhana's insult of the Pandava princess and Draupadi in the court, but did not protest. They disapproved of Duryodhana's instigation of this war and yet took his side, knowing fully well that what lay ahead was destruction. Flow with nature. This was not foolishness or resignation from the powerless space. This was surrender to the inevitable, surrender to the divine. At the level of their consciousness, these great masters allowed nature to take its own course, to relax and allow whatever happens to happen. Whatever happens to happen is the sure sign of an evolved spirit. Ordinary humans have the freedom to think, choose, and act. As a result, then they think they are in control of their destinies. In a sense, they are. They make their decisions and act upon them, but it is their unconscious root patterns that drive them to all these decisions. A cycle is created as the root thought patterns lead to certain incomplete actions, and those incomplete actions in turn mold their mental setup and lead to more and more incompletions. Yet, a human has the choice to break out of his cycle of incompletions and live in freedom. This freedom is the space of completion and the science of completing with this incomplete cycle of root patterns is the science of completion, Purnatva. This is the Dharma taught in the Gita scripture. Listen, there are two ways to live life. One is to accept the world and life as it is, as we perceive it without any resistance, being complete, to see the reality as it is. What in Sanskrit is termed Sriti Drishti. The other way is to try to make circumstances evolve according to our viewpoint to create a reality as we want to see, called Drishti Striti. The first attitude, one of acceptance out of completion, brings happiness. The second one of resistance, brings suffering. No one can change the world according to his viewpoint. It is an exercise doomed to encounter failure. At best, we can transform ourselves, that's all. And when we do transform ourselves, we are also empowered with the great inner powers to create a reality as we want for ourselves and others. No revolution has ever succeeded in bringing about any significant positive change. Revolutionaries who claim that they are against dictatorship become dictators themselves. That has always been history. Ironically, an enlightened master has no such freedom. He is a faithful channel of the universal energy, Parashakti, the divine existence. Every move, every thought is be- at the behest of the divine. An enlightened being is beyond choice. He is in complete surrender to the divine. Bhishma was of pure divine origin, the son of Ganga. Ganga is the embodiment of pure inner space. Bhishma had the gift of Icha Mrityu, self willed death. His dharma, his integrity, and authenticity were the standard for his era. Yet Bhishma kept quiet when Draupadi was attempted to be disrobed and insulted because he had the wrong association with self-denial, Duryodhana, and being in integrity to his huge vow to always protect the kingdom's royal seat. He did not act when Duryodhana denied the Pandavas even a patch of land the size of a needle tip. He chose to fight for Duryodhana. However, when Duryodhana requested him to lead the Kaurava army, Bhishma told him that the Pandava princes were as dear to him as Duryodhana was, and while he would wage war against their army, he could not take their lives. This was the condition under which Bhishma agreed to fight against the Pandava army on Duryodhana's behalf. Yet, in this instance, Bhishma's compassion for Duryodhana overcame his distaste for his actions and behavior. Bhishma understood the desperate fear running through Duryodhana's mind, and he felt the need to reassure him. In response to these exaggerated claims of Duryodhana, Bhishma blew his conch as a sign of resounding affirmation of whatever had been said to Duryodhana. Sanjaya said that Bhishma's conch sounded like the roar of a lion, coming from the oldest and bravest of all the warriors assembled on the battlefield. It was also an affirmation of Bhishma's own support to the Kaurava prince, and the signal for the war to begin. Bhishma's conch was celebratory signal seeking victory. The war begins. 1.13, 1.13. Conches, bugles, trumpets, drums, and horns all suddenly sounded. Their combined sound rending the skies. 1.14. Then seated on a magnificent chariot drawn by white horses, both Madhava, Krishna, and Arjuna sounded their divine conches. 1.15. Rikesha Krishna blew on his conch the Panchajanya. Dhananjaya Arjuna sounded the Devata, and Vrukudara Bhima sounded his mighty conch called Poundra. 1.16, 1.17, 1.18, King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch, the Ananta Vijaya, Nakula and Sahadeva Blude Shugosha, and Mani Pushpaka. That great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter Sikandi, Dradyumna, Virata, and the invincible Shakyati. Draupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the others, such as the mighty armed son of Sudara, all sounded their conches. Conches called Sankha in Sanskrit are the shells of mollusks that live in the sea. From time immemorial, Hindu scriptures have referred to the use of conches during ritualistic, devotional, and celebratory occasions. In general, a conch is blown to signify obeisance to the divine, or in celebration of an auspicious, victorious occasion. Each of the great warriors in the Mahabharata war had his own conch with its unique and sound signature. Most of the great warriors also had their own chariot flags and their weapons, especially their bows, had great spiritual significance. It is said that Arjuna's presence in any part of the battlefield would be known by the sound of his conch and the twang of his bow. When Bhishma blew his conch in support of Duryodhana, the response was tumultuous on both sides. Every warrior on the battlefield took out his conch and blew his signature note. All of the sounds that emanated at that moment, a few were heard above the rest. Krishna sounded his Pancha Janya, the conch of Vishnu, which drowned out all other sounds. It was the victorious announcement for all that the divine was already present with the Pandava army. Vyasa, through Sanjaya, attributes divinity only to Krishna's conch, not to anyone else's. He refers to Krishna as Madhava and later as Rishikesha. Madhava signifies that Krishna is an incarnation of Vishnu, the husband of Lakshmi, goddess of wealth and fortune. In this context, it signifies that whoever Krishna sides with would be invincible. Krishna is then referred to as Rishikesha, controller of the senses, the superconscious who has created the Maya, the illusion that is this great war of Mahabharata. Vyasa implies that all that happens is a creation of Krishna. For what purpose? He alone knows that divine truly has no purpose. The divine is. That's all. Krishna was Arjuna's charioteer. Arjuna's chariot and his bow Gandiva were a blessing from Agni, the fire god. The chariot was capable of traversing all three worlds. The chariot blew the flag of Hanuman, the monkey god, the close, confident disciple of Lord Sri Rama, the earlier incarnation of Vishnu and Krishna. Hanuman had blessed Bhima that he would be with the Pandava princes at all times, and he himself would ride upon Arjuna's chariot flag. Wherever Hanuman is, Sri Rama is present. So Arjuna is accompanied not only by Krishna, Sri Krishna, but also by his earlier incarnation, Sri Rama. Arjuna and the Pandava princes were twice blessed. Arjuna is referred to as Dhanajaya, winner of wealth, in reference to his ability to generate the wealth needed by his brother Yudhishthira. Not to be outdone, Bhima, also called Vrikodara blew on his conch poundra, a fearsome sound that invoked dread amongst the Kaurava army. Bhima was feared by his enemies for his strength and anger. The other three Pandava princes, Yudhishthira, Nakula, and Sahadeva, and then by the great warriors Drupada, Virata, Satyaki, Shikandi, Dhridyumna, Abhimanyu, and others followed, all blowing their conches in celebration of their impending victory. Each of these warriors had a great history. Yudhishthira, the eldest of the Pandava princes, was born to his mother Kunti through the grace of Yama, the god of justice and death, and was universally known as Dharma Raja, the king of truth, as he was established in Dharma, an embodiment of integrity with the power of words, never known to tell a lie. Nakula and Sahadeva embodied enriching the power of living, who were born to Madri, the second wife of Pandu, through the grace of the Ashwini Kumaras, celestial beings. Draupada, the king of Panchala, was the father of Drishtadyumna and Draupadi, wife of the Pandavas. Virata was the king in whose kingdom the five Pandava princes and Draupadi spent a year in hiding. His daughter married Abhimanyu, Arjuna's son, by Subhadra, Krishna's sister. Shikandi was born as Bhishma's nemesis when Amba, a princess whom Bhishma captured as a bride for his stepbrother Vichitravirya, immolated herself to be reborn to avenge her shame. It is if Sanjaya, the narrator of the war, repeatedly tries to impress upon the blind king Dhritarashtra the caliber of the Pandava warriors. Sanjaya specifically refers to these warriors as aparajita, invincible, ever victorious in whatever task they undertook, implying that they would be victorious in this war. It is significant that Bhishma's conch, sounded by him as the commander-in-chief of Kaurava army to signify the war opening, was responded to by Krishna and not by Drishtadyumna, the Pandava commander-in-chief, or any of the other Pandava princes. Krishna was a response of victory, not a reaction to the challenge issued by Bhishma. Law of cosmos is responsibilism. Understand, if you feel that you are not responsible, you react. If you feel that you are responsible, you respond. When all your actions are responses and not reactions, you are a karma yogi. No karma binds you. You are living in completion and expressing completion. The cosmic vibration of Krishna's Panchajanya conch was a declaration of his responsibility for everything in and around him, in acceptance of the fact that whatever was thrown at the Pandava army was being accepted by him, divinity incarnate. Krishna, as the superconscious guide of the Pandavas, the five embodiments of Dharma, absolved them of any incompletions, any guilt, or wrongdoing by taking upon himself the responsibility for everything happening as and is to happen. The biggest question we have in our mind is, how can I be responsible for everything happening around me? I can be held responsible for what is happening inside me. How can I be held responsible for what is happening outside me? For example, If an accident happens in my life, how can I be responsible? Everybody asks this question. Let me answer you. Listen, there's an important difference between being the cause of something and being responsible for it. Sometimes you may not be the reason for a certain happening, but it is affecting your life. You are responsible for that happening. For example, you may not be the cause of political corruption in your country, but as a citizen of the country, you are responsible for it. You may not be the reason for it, but that doesn't mean that you are not responsible in truth. You need to know that unless you take responsibility, you are neither going to improve the situation nor you are doing to expand your inner space. A person who does not feel responsible even for his own actions is an animal. He lives in a very low level consciousness. Duryodhana, along with the Kaurava army, represents this low level consciousness. A person who feels responsible for his own actions is a human being. He lives in a middle level consciousness. There were many warriors who felt responsible for their actions, their duties, and even supported Duryodhana. They represent this middle level consciousness. A person who takes responsibility even for others' actions is divine. He lives in leadership consciousness, Ishvaratva. Sri Krishna is the Ishvara, the leader of the universe, responsible for the whole cosmos, with the ability to do anything with the cosmos. We always feel that responsibility is a burden. No, it is a power. Responsibility makes you powerful. Responsibility directly leads you to leadership consciousness, Ishwaratva. As long as you feel responsible only for your family, you remain as the head of just your family. When you feel responsible for the community, you become a leader of the community. As your feeling of responsibility expands in you, your leadership quality also expands as a power. The decision to feel responsibility for the whole cosmos is enlightenment. Feeling responsible for the whole and declaring to live by your feeling is responsible declaration, known in Hindu spiritual practice as Nidhi Dhyasana. Responsible declaration unlocks the power of feeling or prema shakti in you. Listen, cosmos functions on responsibilism. The law of cosmos, the natural law of existence, dharma is responsibilism. The law of nature is responsibilism. Responsibilism. Krishna leads to the whole war with this one truth, satya of responsibilism. The whole Mahabharata war is Krishna's expression of the power of his responsibilism, Ishvaratva. Even though Krishna or his actions are not responsible for the war, even though he is not the reason for the war, he takes the responsibility even for others' inauthenticity and others' irresponsibility and re-establishes Dharma, the cosmic law of responsibilism. This is the drop of an incarnation. The rest of the Pandava army, including Arjuna, follow Krishna's lead by blowing their divine conscious. Thank you so much for listening. We end the session here. Next time we continue with Arjuna's falters. Let's end with the Puna mantra, offering our deepest gratitude to beloved Swamiji, Bhagavan, the Supreme Pontiff of Hinduism, Jagat Guru Masanidanam, Nithyananda, Paramashivam. Thank you so much. Let's chant the Puna mantra. Let's sit straight with the head, neck, and spine in a straight line, the hands to the Anjali Mudra. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavat Sri Nithyananda Paramashiva Paruka Paramastu. Om Nithyananda. Nithyanandam, everyone. Thank you for listening.